Hello, YouTube! I am Pinstar, and this is Sid Meier's Civilization 6 Quick Tip Guide. So, today's video is going to be covering the penultimate question that has plagued Civ players since the original. And that is, what do I do with my initial settler? Do I settle in place? Do I accept the hand I am dealt? Do I move? How far do I move? Where do I move? When should I move? All of these questions can give you a slight edge in your early game and give you a couple more benefits compared to just settling with what you've got. Other times you can waste some precious early turns waffling around the map trying to find the best place when settling in place would have been just fine. So today I'm going to help you find out when to move and when not to. Right then, tip number 1, turn on tile yields. I don't care how many games of Civ you've played. You go down to map options, you click on show yield icons, you turn on tile yields. It just helps you navigate and remember everything and see what you're about to get into. Rule number 2, look for the food and look for production. The key between food and production is you kind of want a balance between the two of them. If you think about it, any tile that yields 2 food exactly will exactly feed the worker that works it. Therefore, any other yields on that tile are gravy. Any tile that yields more than 3 food will not only feed the worker, but also give you an even bigger net positive. On the flip side, any tile that yields less than 2 food will decrease from your city's available food output. And if you have too much of that, then you will have a city that stagnates and stops growing. So what you're looking for really is sort of a balance between the two. Without food, your city ain't growing anywhere. You're going to be on very few tiles, but without the production, you're not going to be really doing anything else. And then, of course, there's other tile bonuses like faith and culture, but those are just kind of gravy at this point. The big two are food and production. Now, let's take a look at what we've got here. Should we move or should we stay? Well, the first thing we want to take a look at here is, well, I'm noticing there's a lot of food around us. Food, 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 triple food, 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 triple food, food. Honey bunches of food. We have tons and tons of food. So food's not an issue for this particular city. In that case, production is. Now, wanting to get into the high food but also high production areas is probably a paramount thing. Now, we've got this nice little ring of higher production areas. These forested hills come with the food needed, and this right here with a simple mine will turn into a 2-2-2 tile. Not too shabby, if you ask me. On the flip side, we also have a coast right here. We could get ourselves with a single step, get ourselves a coastal city that gives us a pop of sailing. But if we were to meander over here, where's the production? Yeah, we got one here, one here, one here, one here, one here. And one here. I mean, they're dotted around. You could make do with a city here. There's enough production for a city to survive. There's also certainly enough food as well. But I don't know. I just don't know. Now, one of the tools at your disposal before you make that critical decision of what do you do with your settler is your warrior that you start out with free. What you want to do is you want to ask the question. You want to get more information about a couple of your choices. So right now, I see 2 main choices at the moment. We can either go over here, pick up all the coastal bonuses while still retaining the fresh water here, and all that, or we take a step over here, settle right here. Yeah, that stomps on the triple food marsh, but that brings all of these wonderful 2 production tiles into our midst, while still having enough food within those tiles to just keep us to keep the city fed and growing. I'm really tempted here. Now, why don't we get a little bit more information? Maybe there's like a whole bunch of desert right here. Maybe there's a bunch of really crappy tiles just outside our reach that would mean that these tiles right here are the only thing going for this city site, and that this city site that we know a lot more about is better. So let's go up here. Now, is this hills? This is hills. Generally, when you want to take your 1 step or 2 steps with your warrior, find some hills. You'll get more view out of it. Aha! The plot thickens. So we've got some actually pretty decent tiles. We've also got ourselves, we're in sort of a Panama situation here. Last question, though, is this looks like it's part of the river here. Looks like we have our stuff here, the freshwater bonus. But turn on the settler lens. Oh, sadness, sadness. Unfortunately, this tile does not benefit from that. So we're kind of limited here. Now, if we were to take the 1 step over in this direction, we still would get access to a few more decent production tiles. By moving off of this tile, I do advocate moving off of this tile because it comes with 2 production to it. And we also could, if we wanted to, chop the forest. If this were a water tile, if this had fresh water, I would settle here in a heartbeat. But since it does not, I think it behooves us to take a step over. All right, no new information that's really speaking one way or the other, so we settle. We get those whales. We have a decent start to it. We've got some high food tiles to grow. And we have a path to tap into production here. We can get a 3 production tile from this stone. So I do think we could make good use out of all of this. Now, let's practice. Let us take a look at a number of different, completely random city starts, and I will give you what I would do, or how I would go about choosing whether or not to move or not, just to give an idea of the kind of sort of calculations that you want to make as to whether or not you want to settle. So, see you guys on the Hey, so, new completely random start, random civ. In this case, we are Japan. Now, let's survey. Lots of food. Production. Mountain tiles yield the potential for even more production on them. But this is still a very food-heavy map here. Now, we do potentially have the potential of meandering our way and doing a coastal start. Whether or not that is an intelligent thing to do is another question. Now, again, we don't want to be drowned by food. This is a lot of food. That's a lot of food. That's a lot of food. And all this food is all well and good, but without any production to back it up, a city can choke on its own food, so to speak. Now, we're on a source of production right here. These grassland hills these grassland hills are quite nice. And unfortunately, if we settle here, we would actually stomp on the forest and only get the 1 production out of there. We would probably want a worker working this tile instead. Now, our options here are numerous. We could take a step across the river. That would cost us a turn, but that's okay. I go by a rule of 3. Try to settle your capital by the 3rd turn. Obviously, the earlier the better, but you still want to turn 3 no later. You should be fine. Now, let's take a look at our surroundings. If we were to march over here, we would free up this space. We would get 2 and 2, 2 and 2, 2 and 2, plenty of food. This would actually turn into a 3-2 once we improve the sheep. This also puts us within striking distance of the tea, which will be good for some extra luxuries, amenities, and other goodness. Another potential step would be a step in this direction. This would give us the 2-2, 2-2, 3-2 things. We get another 3-2 eventually here. A 2-2 with the copper here, and plenty of other stuff. Plus the salt would be a little bit more in range, and we'd still get our fresh water. The last question is, do we what's down here? Looks kind of deserty to me, so that kind of makes me shy away, but I want to know more. So let's take our warrior, take a step up here, and see what there is to see. Well, now, this presents an interesting dilemma. You see, this spot right here is kind of a dead tile. Yeah, it's just one production. You could improve it to 2. But settling a city will always make sure that the city tile produces 2 food and 1 production, or 2 production if it's plain sales. More on that later. Now, if we were to go here, we would step away from the river, but we'd still get fresh water from the oasis. We'd also get access to the oasis tile. We'd have immediate access to salt. We'd have immediate access to tea. We would be a coastal city. We'd have access to plenty of food up here and decent production down here. So that could certainly be a way to go about it. In fact, we would technically have access to these turtles, although I wouldn't count on that for short-term building here. Now, the other thing to note here is because of the rough terrain here, this would be a turn 3 settle. 1 turn here, 1 turn here, settle on the 3rd. So, you know what? Let's take the gamble. Oh my god, and I can already tell the gamble is paying off because we got ourselves a 3-fer right over here. A 3 production or higher tile is always a good sign, especially for your capital. And I would argue worth the wait. And we have a barbed camp already. Lovely. Well, why don't you go up there to start doing something about that? Yeah, whole lot of nothing down here, but that's okay. We got plenty of goodies here. Settle. We got our sailing, we've got our fresh water, we've got our amenities, we've got our production, and, I mean, we've got our high food and high food whenever we need it. This is going to be a good city. Let's try another one, shall we? So, looks like here are the Dutch. Now, one thing to note, there are some civs that will, depending on the civ that you're playing, will skew what you're looking for. If we were since we're the Dutch, if there were some coastlines near us, we would be looking for polder locations and factoring that into our play. No coastline, so we're not factoring. Now, let's take a look here. This is a rather generous start here. Once again, very food heavy. Actually, I'm a little worried for our level of production. There's not a lot. I mean, there's some hills tiles up here that could become 2-2s with production. We can get 2-2s out of these stone fields here. But not a lot of really, really strong stuff. We're going to need to make sure our workers are in force. That being said, the tile that we're starting on right here is just a 2-food nothing. A rather weak tile to work, but not a bad tile to settle on because we would actually add 1 production to the tile that it wouldn't have otherwise. And this city spot needs as much production as it can get. We certainly don't want to stomp on any forests around here. As far as what to do with our thing, the only thing I could think of that would make a better location would be if there was something magical over here. The only way we're going to see that is really to take a peek around the mountain. So I'm going to send you down here. All right, a little bit extra jade, but nothing to really write home about. So in this case, I say settle in place. Hey, a little mercy stone while we're at it. Excellent. Once again, we are the Netherlands, and once again, or not the Netherlands, we are the Dutch. But once again, we have no coastline in sight. Fair enough. Now, looking on here, sugar. Look at that sugar. Holy crap, that's sugar. That's 5 food tile. Yeah, 5 food tile. Plus 3, and then a 3 for down here. We got horses, which can turn into a 3 and 2. We got gypsum, which can turn into a 3 production tile once improved. We've got a really healthy mix here. This 3 to food turns into a 3 and 1 once worked. We've got some good stuff here. So the question becomes, what do we do? Now, we're standing on Plains Hills, and this is a really good dilemma here to think about. This is a good one. So, Plains Hills, never mind the forest on there, but Plains Hills have the unique ability that if you settle a city on Plains Hills, instead of the city tile becoming 2 food, 1 production, it becomes 2 food, 2 production. You get that for free. And normally if you have what I call a bald Plains Hill, something like this, where it's just Plains Hills, do it. There's no reason not to if all the other stars align. The problem here is that working this tile would be really freaking awesome. And if we just settle in here, we lose that ability, that we lose that 3 production tile. And we don't want to lose that 3 production tile. We want a worker to be on that tile working it. Compare that to all of these other tiles around here. These little flat plains are just honey bunches of meh. 1 food, 1 production. We can do better than that. So what I would do in this case, because it moves us closer to the horses, closer to the gypsum, doesn't move us any further away from the sugar, and the cows are still within a stone's throw here, and we can still settle turn 1. Take a step. Oh, look at that, more gypsum. More gypsum. Beautiful. This is what we want right here. This will be a nice city here. Whenever you have high food tiles contrasted with high production tiles, that's the ideal. Because this helps the city grow faster, and this helps you build stuff faster. We are here as America. And a not quite as generous start, though I do have to say we do have spices nearby, and spices are very nice. Especially depending on how you can get them. Now we've got ample movement options here because of the, I don't know why they don't turn on the settler lens, because of this freshwater lake. We can settle next to that, not a problem. So once again, drowning in food here. So now we're sitting on a 3 food tile. That's all well and good. I mean, settling on it wouldn't be the worst thing in the world, but let's see what else there is. Down here looks like there might be some sort of a haven for stuff, as well as over here. We can see what's a little bit further past here. I think that might be worth the time and effort of our warrior to move that way. The other alternative here is to check out what's going on the coast. Are there some cool sea resources we can tap into? Now I'm more interested in production. So we got nothing. I mean, we got more information, but not as pertains to our immediate cause here. So let's think about where can we hook up our early production. Well, the forests come with their own production here. In this case, the rainforests do. There's no shortage of food. We could come up this way. That would, well, see, that's the thing. I actually kind of want to come closer to the rest of this stone. I would say a step up this way. We're still next to the river. We still have these things. And actually, whether or not we take another step depends on what we see. Interesting. Well, no, I don't want to. As tempting as it would be, and as ooh, this would be a really good harbor spot if we put the city right here. But that would stomp on the stone, and we're hurting for production as it is. So I don't want to just stomp settle the stone here. We can get enough production to make things happen, to do what we need to do. The only problem is we are kind of far from a luxury. And high food and no luxuries is not a good combination. So slightly weaker start, I would say. We definitely want our second city somewhere next to these spices. Now here's an interesting dilemma. We got ourselves some dyes and we've got ourselves some silks right here. Not too shabby. We also have a whole bunch of dead desert tiles. That's not too good either. Now, we also have ourselves some nice wine over here, so we're not hurting for luxuries this time around. The only real place that I could think of moving, I wouldn't want to move, well, we could move on to the desert here. Because, again, your capital will always have a minimum of 2 food, 1 production. So if you settle on a dead desert tile, you're going to be making at least 1 more tile more productive. That being said, there's not a lot near us that is really that good out of the box. And especially for your capital, you want stuff that's good out of the box. Now, another spot that I'm kind of eyeing is down here. Down here, we've got plenty of potential for 2 and 2s with a little development with these quarries. We've got the early silk here, which is already a good tile to begin with and will just become better once we improve it. Plus we've got this forest down here. So we're not too shabby with that, but I would want to learn more. What else is around here that might make this movement worth it? So let's take a look. I just found 2 things that make this city spot worth it. Oh, yes, indeedy. Now, we are going to lose a turn here, but we were going to lose a turn anyway. Even if this wasn't a marshland, we would have to do 1, 2, end turn, and then go next. We can still pick up the dyes and the wine elsewhere. That moving down here would deny us these within our capital, but because they're both so close, we could probably pick them up with ancillary cities. Not a problem. And all you really need in your initial city is just 1 amenity. Going without an amenity in your initial city is kind of iffy, but having at least 1 is not too shabby. And actually 1, 2, 3, we would technically be picking up the wine by settling here. Eventually. I wouldn't blow your coffers completely going down that way. But still, good out-of-the-box tiles around us. And heck, even more reusable 2 and 2s. I can see a lot of workers making this place a great capital. Okay, so here we are as the Congo, and well, we're sitting on another dilemma. We're sitting on another Plains Hills that we could settle on for a free 2 and 2 in our home territory, or we could move off of it and work it with a worker. Now, well, again, a lot of people will always say if you see Plains Hills, settle on Plains Hills, but it's painful not to. Now, there is a bald Plains Hills over here, but that's not near water. That's immediately not in our consideration. Now, what do we do to ask, well, what's our alternative? What else could we possibly do? Well, we could move off of here, move on to the 2 food tile here to settle in a great place. We would have access to this fantastic cocoa tile, immediate access to this 3 production tile, very close access to this 2 and 3 sheep tile, as well as some access to plenty of food too, plus this sheep tile eventually. But what else is over here? Or is there anything else in this vicinity that might make it worth our while? Let's take a look. Because the alternative would be to, well, there's no fresh water down this way. So that's pretty much the only move I could really see considering. Not bad. I would say it's worth the step. Interesting that it suggests settling here on the sheep. That indicates, are you you are not freshwater. Curious game. Let's take a step. We actually see less because we stepped off of a hill. But because of the abundance of food and the mixture of food and production, I'd say it's a good place. All right, one more. All right, so in our last playthrough, in our last placement here, we've got an interesting start. So, yeah, here's example number 15 as to why you shouldn't just auto settle in place. If we look at the settler lens, yeah, they plopped us on coastal water. This isn't fresh water to start with. It does not always settle you on fresh water. Why it doesn't, I have no idea. But we've got some really, really juicy tiles nearby. And in contrast to some of the others, we're a little bit lower on food in this particular setup here than we are in some of the others. Now, I would not settle in place. I mean, we'd be stomping on a 1 in 3 Plains Hills forest. And we also kind of want to make our way to fresh water. Now, the question becomes, what source? This is fresh water up here. This is fresh water down here. And both are within the 3-turn limit. Well, up here we've got a couple more luxuries, but we've got these fantastic elephant tiles down here. And closer access to here. So my thoughts are settle here on this grassland, or settle on the bald Plains Hills. This would give us a lovely 2-and-2 start at the cost of just 2 turns, because you'd have to do 2 down here. We could even use our settler to scout a little bit. Now, speaking of scouting, we could always eliminate the possibility of the northern step being good, because I don't think we're going to get too much more information about this city location from these, because this mountain's in the way. So let's use our warrior to sort of scout out the north to see if we're missing out on something fantastic. No, nothing, not a distinct lack of fantasticness. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to take a step, 2 steps down here. We could always settle on here if we run into something really tasty. If not, we can take 1 more step onto the Plains Hills and settle turn 3. Alright, so a couple more hills down here. We know these are not hills because hills would have popped up on our vision, but these are not, which is fine. We still don't know what they are. Now, settling here would not be the worst thing in the world. The only problem is that food is going to be short here because we're going to want to work both of these tiles, but these only have 1 food each. And we're standing on some food. We would actually like to turn that into a 3-food tile with a farm. So stepping on here would not only give us access to this other 2-food tile here, but also the 2-and-2 city center. So I think it'd be worth the 1 extra turn that it would take. So turn 2, we step up. Oh, even better. Oof, man, these elephant tiles are strong. But yeah, we got our food settled. We got some bonus food resources, some nice fertile tiles. We are still very much in range of all of these. I mean, everything is wonderful in the outer ring of this city. Well, the second ring of it, anyway. We technically have access to the silver, which is good, because we kind of want to snipe that off of there without dedicating a whole city to it. We can always do another city like up here for the gypsum. And yeah, we're down here. So plenty of production and food to be had here. I like it. I like it a lot. We'll just move this warrior up here. Yeah, this is a fantastic second city right here, especially if we settle on the sand to make 1 less dead tile. All right, guys. Well, I hope you found this little exercise informative about whether or not it is worth it to settle in place, whether you should take a step, how you should take a step, and how many steps you should take. I do hope you found this informative. And it's only fitting that we got Scotland as our last one, because I will be starting up a Let's Play series once Gathering Storm releases, where we will be playing as Scotland. I figured everyone else and their mother will be doing one of the newer civs. I want to see how one of the older civs plays with the new mechanics, so keep an eye out for that one. So if you guys like this episode and you want to see more like it, go ahead and hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, and leave me a comment, good, bad, or indifferent. Your feedback is always welcome. So until next time, this has been Pinstar signing out. See ya!